You're listening to the Master Passive Income Podcast Network. Welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name's Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you get financial independence, quit that job, that just overbooked job by investing in real estate and many other ways. Now, I am so excited about this episode because I'm bringing on a really good friend of mine who's been on my shows many, many times, as well as he has shown me his new book. His new book that's coming out is phenomenal. I'm giving it to my kids to read. I wish I had this book many years ago before I started investing in real estate. I wish I had this book before because it opens your mind. It opens your eyes to see what is possible. Now, the great thing about listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and all this sort of stuff, like you're able to see what other people have accomplished. The great thing about books, though, is they walk you step by step through the process. In fact, this gentleman that I'm bringing on, a good friend of mine, he tells me, he said, I am writing a book that I wish I would have been able to read these, when I was 20 or 19 or whatever. In fact, my guest that I'm bringing on, such a fantastic person in general. But number two, he, at 25 years old, became financially independent and now is successfully unemployed. And at 30 years old, he wrote a best-selling book, and it's going to be amazing. You have to get this book. The book is called Retire by 30, and I'm going to bring him on and have him walk you through how to do all this in retiring, financial independence, being able to cut expenses, being frugal, but at the same time, affording the things that you want to do in life. This is a fantastic episode. Can't wait for you to hear it. Here we go. My good friend, Retire by 30 author, Cody Berman. All right, here we go.
Welcome to the Master Passive Income Podcast, where we talk about investing in real estate with a special focus on making enough money so you can quit your job and live the dream life. And now, here is your host, Dustin Heiner.
Cody, thank you so much for being here.
Dustin, I am so excited to be on, man. You have so much energy, and I am ready to match it, man. All of our episodes have been fantastic. I am super, super excited.
They sure are. You and I hit it off. It was 2020, right before COVID locked everything down. We were skiing, and you and your then girlfriend, but now wife, were there. And it was amazing time with a bunch of entrepreneurs. We're all getting together. We just started chatting about everything. And now it's 2026 now, and you have a book. An amazing book. On top of that, I just got to share, everybody, you got to go listen to his podcast. He's got a great podcast called The Fi Show. Love the podcast. I've been on there a couple times, which is great. So definitely listen to the show. Now, he wrote a book called Retire by 30. So, Cody, you retired at 25. You're helping people retire, hopefully by 30. Talk to us about what made you want to write this book?
Yeah, first I just want to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, it's retire by 30, but if you're 50, if you're 16 listening to this podcast right now, this can help you at any age. You don't have to specifically retire by 30. There's a lot of case studies in the book of people who retire in, 3 years from real estate, a couple years from business, 7 years from corporate. So whether or not you're less than 30, you can still put those same concepts into play and hit early retirement and financial freedom way faster than humanly possible. But what's funny, I was just telling you before we hit record here, was I had a note in my phone from September 2021 with the title Retire by 30 and all the kind of chapters outlined. And it's changed a lot since then, but things just fell to the wayside. I just, for some reason, wasn't motivated enough. And I actually got the motivation meeting some folks at your conference, RubCon, in April of last year. Finally, got a book coach, and I was meeting with them regularly. And I'm the type of person who does not want to disappoint. So every other week I'm meeting with this guy, Brett, and I'm like, all right, if I don't have anything to show him, I'm going to be so embarrassed. So I just kept working on the book, and eventually I finished it after 9 grueling edits, got all the things done for it. But man, this is just the book that I wish I had when I first started this whole journey. The way I've kind of laid it out and presented it, it's like a menu of options. So it's not telling people you have to do this side hustle, or you have to invest in this thing, you have to live on X percentage of your income. It's here's a menu of options to hit financial freedom. Here's 10 plus different stories of people who actually retired before 30. And basically choose your own adventure, choose your own path, whatever sounds best to you. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with the book. There's so many things that I didn't know when I started my journey back at age 19, when I discovered this whole financial independence entrepreneurship thing. And man, yeah, I'm just hoping to get this in the hands of a lot of people who are just starting their own financial freedom journeys, no matter what age they are.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter what age. In fact, I quit my job when I was 37, but I didn't start going down the path of financial independence or, saying I don't want to work. That's really what it came down to. I didn't want to work for somebody else. That is, if you boiled everything down, I wanted freedom. That's why I love Successfully Unemployed. And it was like 26, 25, 26. I was like, I really got to figure something out because it is terrible working for somebody else. And I was blessed by 37 to be able to quit my job. And for me, the path was real estate. But at the same time, I made lots of other, not other money, but money in general with other businesses, with other investments and all that sort of stuff. And that's what I love about your book is it helps people to understand that there are a lot of options out there. But I want to also speak on one quick thing that you brought up. You wanted to write this book for a number of years now, and you didn't. But then you got a coach. You got somebody that you paid money to be a part of. And that's the thing. Like, if you don't put any skin in the game, it's like, I'll keep putting it off. But when you don't want to let down your coach and you don't want to throw that money away, like, oh, I just spent, X amount of dollars and it's just going to wait. No, you make yourself do it. And you coach people like Gold City Ventures, showing them how to sell things on Etsy. You have all these other ways that make money. And that's what I love about Retire by 30 is that you have lived all of this. Now, what made you really, starting when you're 19 years old, I wish I would have learned this going down this path a long time ago, but what are your thoughts about like what really got you to do this at 19 years old? Most people, they're just going to college. They're just like, let me just go to college and figure it out.
I think just knowing that there are other people out there, like it really didn't hit me until I met people in person. So I was reading the stuff online and I was listening to podcasts, I was watching YouTube videos, I was reading books, but it didn't really hit me until I went to an event actually in 2018. It was called Camp Financial Independence. And I met people who had hit financial independence in their 20s, in their 30s, like real life people who were like, oh, I've been traveling for the last 4 years, or yeah, we both quit our corporate jobs and now we do X, Y, and Z. And I was just like, this is amazing. Like, how has nobody ever told me about this? What none of my teachers told me about this in school, in high school, in college. And so I was like, this is the path for me. Like, I'm going to break out of the mold. I'm going to do things differently. I'm not going to settle for the job, the just over broke job. And I'm going to kind of go and carve my own path and make it on my own. So yeah, it was honestly just seeing other people do it. There's the guy, it's like, is it Roger Bannister or something? It was the first guy to run a 4-minute mile. And the year after he ran that 4-minute mile, there's like 8 or 9 other people who did it. And it's like those other people had it in them to run that 4-minute mile, but until they saw someone else do it, they weren't able to do it. So like I took the same inspiration from other folks who had hit financial freedom, who kind of carved the path for me. I'm like, this is possible. And so hopefully I'm now that person for other people. Like with my book, Retire by 30, hopefully they see me, they see, oh, this guy hit financial freedom at 25. I can definitely do it then. Like I hope people try to beat me. I hope people are like, I can do it by 22 or I can do it by 19. Like there's some crazy success stories I've seen. So yeah, man, that's the honest truth is like, I just saw other people doing it. I thought, hey, I'm smart. I can figure this out too. And then I just kept driving forward.
You got to see what's possible. That's the biggest thing about being around other people is you see what other people it's possible for other people to do, and then you can do it. That's the thing that opened my mind back in 2006, 2005, 2006. I started reading more books about financial independence because I was like, I gotta figure something out. And you got around people. That's the greatest thing that I found is that as I get around other people who have accomplished not necessarily better things, but different things, and then you start seeing better things that are like, oh my goodness, I'm at level, let's just say 2 out of 10. This person's at level 3. Oh my goodness. Like, I didn't know that was even possible. Let me start doing that. And level 4 and level 5. And you just keep going. And that's what I love about real estate investing, about businesses, about anything not working a job. Because a job, you just depend on your boss to give you a raise. And no, if you do it on your own, the next level is your own limitation because other people have reached higher levels than you. You just got to open your mind, and you getting around the right people was absolutely amazing. And you brought up the idea of FI or a financial independence. Now, I have a little love-hate relationship with the FIRE crowd. And you know what the FIRE crowd is, financial independence,
Yeah.
retire early. And I want to bring up a little, I wouldn't say controversial because fire is like, it's dead. It's a small, it's a little smoldering little heap. Nobody talks about fire anymore. It's not even a thing. And the big reason why I didn't like the word fire is because it makes in people's brain the idea of like, we just got to cut expenses and cut expenses and then cut expenses and then cut expenses, like just keep going
Yeah.
until our income is more than our expenses. At least that's the way that it went in a general for most people. I'm the opposite. I'm like, even though you and I are very frugal, we're very, very frugal, which is great. That's we get along so well on so many fronts, but we're very frugal. And even though we're frugal, though, I see is the problem is I need to make more money. Not that I got to cut money. Like if I love going and getting, I like smoking cigars every once in a while. So if I'm going to buy a $10 cigar, I don't want to cut that out. Or somebody likes coffee. Like you just keep cutting, cutting, cutting. What are your thoughts about financial independence and making more money instead of just figuring out what you can cut?
Yeah, I totally agree with you that the early kind of influencers of financial independence and how this movement started in like the early to mid 2000s, it was about like sell all your cars and you can bike everywhere. And it was like maybe you can live in a storage unit. Like there was a lot of that chatter. So like I totally did not subscribe to that. Now, what I will say is that I think it is very important during the early years to have a gap between your income and your expenses. Now, obviously, to have that gap, you can either do one of two things. You can increase your income or you can decrease your expenses. If you're someone right now who's living paycheck to paycheck and you can't really see too much wiggle room on the income front, like you're trying everything, you're doing side hustles, you're trying real estate, and you just keep spending as much as you're earning, then maybe you should start looking at those expenses. For me, it was like that gap was everything because in order to buy things like real estate, in order to invest in things like the stock market, you need that gap. You need the gap between your income and your expenses. So, especially early on in the journey. But what I will say to caveat all of this is once you do hit financial freedom, you can start to add those luxuries back into your life. If you want cigars, if you want to drive a Porsche, if you want a 4,000 square foot house, and those all kind of fit into the numbers and they work with your financial independence plan, that's totally cool. Just don't do that early on before you've invested any money, before you've created that gap. But once you've created that gap for a couple of years and used all that money from that gap to invest in assets that are going to pay you in perpetuity, then you can start to add some of those luxuries back. So I do agree with you to a point. Like I think there is some value in frugality, but not so much that you need to be depriving yourself. Like you should not be depriving yourself on the financial independence journey. But if you can knock out some of the what I call the big three, like your housing, your transportation, and food, if you can be someone, so this is a real numbers from my scenario. I had friends who were paying like $2,500 a month to live in Boston. I'm from Massachusetts. My wife and I bought a house hack and we were getting paid $800 to live in our house. So like that's a $3,300 delta. And like our lifestyles weren't drastically different. We weren't living in a storage container. Like we were living in a nice house. It just happened to be a part of a larger property. We were renting out the other
I
units on
remember
that
when you bought
property.
it.
So like yeah, exactly. And like my life isn't like, yeah, isn't this deprivation shelter where I'm just like never doing anything. And like I was still traveling. I mean, we met on a trip. I was still traveling. That was 2020. That was like kind of prime years where I was like keeping my expenses low and scaling my income. But if you just make like slightly different choices, if you don't, go for the most expensive apartment or don't go for the McMansion straight out of the gate, like straight out of college when you start making real money, if you don't get that, the average new car payment, I should say, just crossed $750 a month. If you're 22, 23 years old, like maybe keep driving the paid off car for a couple years and then later on you can get that nice car. And like a lot of people will, right when they start making real money, they'll start going out to eat 4 or 5 nights a week or door dashing or Uber Eatsing. And those big three, the housing, transportation, and food, just absolutely crush your budget. And so if you can get those right for a couple of years, and again, you don't have to deprive yourself. Like driving a 5-year-old paid off car isn't going to put you in that worse of a life position than someone who's driving the 2026 new version of that car, spending $750 a month. Like they're really not huge changes in the way you're living your life. It's just small decisions that like make all the difference in terms of financial independence.
I agree with you. And to add to what you're saying, the when somebody just focuses on cutting, which that's what it had been from the very beginning, you needed to do both. Like you need to cut, but at the same, like just needless expenses, things that are just a waste. And like you found a way, hey, instead of have an expense where we're living, why don't we make money? Like that's a different way of thinking. Most people would not even come close to thinking like that. And that is absolutely amazing. You brought up the big three, which we know, I mean, honestly, like the younger generation, right? Let's say, 20s right now, they're like thinking, I'll never own a house. It's so expensive. I can never. I'm like, that's just terrible. I mean, it's really, really sad. And so they're thinking, like, what do we do? We got to rent. But no, there are plenty of other ways to buy real estate, to live in, house hack, like you said. But with the big three, those are huge. Those take up so much of your time and money because you work for a job and you make money. Is there any other hacks that you can come up with? Like house hacking is a great one. Anything else that you can come up with? You did mention one, which was have a paid off car and just drive that. I drove. It was a 10-year-old beat up white old car for a long time because I didn't have any money. I was like, why would I get in debt? And so, any other
Yeah.
tips, any hacks in that?
So if you aren't, and if you're listening to a podcast like this, I'm guessing you're interested in investing in real estate. I mean, I think house hacking, bar none, in terms of like maximizing the gap between your income and your expenses, is the best route. If you're like a 22, 23-year-old kid or guy or gal, I guess you're at that point, you're grown, man or woman, the best way by far to kind of get ahead of your peers and live a very similar lifestyle is to house hack. Like, I really think there's not much on the because it attacks both your income and your expenses. Like you're making money from your renters and you're also decreasing your expenses because now you're getting paid to live in the place where you're living. You mentioned the other one is just continue to drive a paid off car for as long as you can. Like I'm still driving a 2015 Nissan Frontier completely paid off to this day. And my net worth since we first met has gone up like 20x or something like that. It's just because I'm not a car guy and I'm like, you know what? I'd much rather spend on things that I value more, like travel and experiences. And yeah, we can talk about that too. Like my wife and Lauren and I have written down lists of like what do we value, and does our bank accounts and do our calendars align with the things we say that we value? And like when we first did the exercise, it was like kinda, but now it's like a lot more aligned. Like I looked at my expenses this last year. The highest ones was like travel and going out to eat, and those are the things that we value the most, and that's exactly where we spent our money.
So
During the journey, though,
I want to quickly
yeah,
ask because I don't want to lose the idea of travel. So for you listening, you definitely need to see Cody's on his social media. He shares so many amazing pictures. Quickly, can you share? And I want you to keep going on your train of thought. Like, what social media should
sure.
they follow you on so that they can see all your amazing travel?
Instagram's probably best for travel at Cody D Berman. But yeah, we've now I've been to 32 countries. I think we just crossed off 32. I just went to Morocco 2 weeks ago. So yeah, man, we're traveling a lot. That's
Cody D
something that
Berman.
lights both of us up. Cody D Berman. Yeah, my middle name is David.
Awesome.
Cody D Berman on every social media, so you can check me out there. But to answer your last question, so I think when it comes to housing, house hacking, if you're not into house hacking for whatever reason, just sharing an apartment. Like before I house hacked, I lived in Boston, and Boston is a high cost of living city. And people would think, oh, you live in Boston, you must be spending thousands of dollars per month on rent. We got a 3 bedroom, and I lived with four of my buddies. Can you guess which guy shared the bedroom? The guy who's talking to you about personal finance on a podcast right now. So our bedroom was $900 a month. It was $900 per bedroom. It was $2,700 total for the unit. So 900 split in half. I was spending $450 a month to live in Boston just because I got a little bit creative. Now, obviously, this is a lot easier for a guy who's like 21, 22 years old than someone who's maybe listening and you have a family and you're in your like 40s or 50s. But I'm just saying, like, there are ways that you can get creative and just drastically reduce your housing expense. The last category, so you mentioned it's a huge percentage, the big three, the housing, transportation, and food. Those three of the average American's budget make up 67%. So housing is 33, transportation is 17, and then food is like 16. It's like 66, 67%. Astronomical. Like that's 2/3 of your spending go to those three categories. On the food front, though, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I love going out to eat. I like doing this and that. I like going out. If you saw my life from the outside during those years, like from 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, Lauren and I were still traveling a bunch. We were still going out to eat. We were still going out to bars with our friends. We were just doing it slightly smarter. So like we would go out to dinner and, friends would order an appetizer and an entree and a dessert, and like they would send half of it back because they couldn't finish it anyway. We would order like an entree and an appetizer, maybe to split. When we go out to the bars, like we'd kind of pregame at home. So we didn't buy as many drinks out when we went out with friends. So like we were still doing the things. We were just doing them slightly smarter. So we didn't have a $200 night out. Maybe we had a $50 night out. But over time, those like really start to add up. And again, you don't have to do this forever. This is just like early in your financial freedom journey. But those things make all the difference, because what did we do with all that money we were saving from the house hacking, from the paid off car, from the food? We were driving it into things like real estate and the stock market. And so after 3 years, from 22 to 25, after 3 years, we had $500,000 invested in the stock market, and we had 11 rental units that we were renting out that were cash flowing $3,700 per month after all expenses, after PITI, after CapEx, after reserves. So yeah, after those like 3 years, we're like, I think if we don't do anything, we can pretty much just retire. We don't really have to do anything anymore to make money. And that was such a freeing and crazy realization at such a young age.
Absolutely. I mean, you were 25 when you were basically reached that stage where you don't have to worry about working a job. And then now 30 years old and you have written this book, which is amazing. And I wanted to ask you, like, what are your thoughts about side hustles? Because hustles is one, but then coupled that too with working with other people. Because if there's anybody who's the king of partnering with people, it's you. By far, I've just been blown away. I don't partner with anybody. It's just how I am. I've had partners in the past, and it feels like I do 100% of the work and get still half of the money and all the liability. And so I was like, well, I just might as well do it myself. But you're fantastic at it. You've like cornered the market on how to partner with people, which is amazing. Would you suggest people partner with people? And then what are your thoughts about side hustles on top of that? And I want to pause for a quick second and share that honestly, I really want you to invest in real estate. Now, my new goal is to help 1 million people invest in real estate. So, two things I would ask from you. Number one, if you get anything out of this episode, please share it with somebody else. Just say, hey, check out Dustin and Master Passive Income. He really wants to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. That's number one. Number two, I want to get you to invest in real estate. Get my real estate investing course absolutely for free. Text the word rental, RENTAL to 33777. Rental to 33777. I'll literally give you my course, show you how to find an area of the country to invest, how to build the business first. I always talk about that, and how to find the right properties, how to make sure you're getting experts to do the work for you, and scale the business to where you're making $250 or more in passive income. Scale it to quit your job. I'll literally get to you, or go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. Obviously, it'll be in the description, but I really, really want you to invest in real estate, because the more that actual, normal, everyday people own real estate, the better everybody's life gets.
Okay, I'll answer the side hustles first. I think side hustling, if you're someone who's only ever made money in a day job, even if you make $5 in a side hustle, something just unlocks. Like knowing that you can actually earn money without a boss giving you a paycheck, there's just so much freedom in that. It's not just the money, it's just the mindset shift. Like, oh, I actually don't need this W-2 job. Like if I needed to, I could go out and do something on my own. And it was such a huge realization for me. I think I made like $4 or $5 the first time I'd ever made money outside of like a traditional job where I'm trading my time for money. But just seeing that $4 or $5 come into my account, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what if I did this 100 more times? That's $400 or $500. And then eventually it became 4 or 5,000. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. So I'm a huge fan of side hustling. I'm very partial to side hustling because that's what allowed me to leave my job. But yeah, I think everyone should at least try one. Even if you have no intention, you have a great job and you love what you're doing. Like I just think you learn so many skills. You get so much confidence from doing side hustles. I would suggest everyone give it a whirl. Now, when it comes to partnerships, I think if I'm not mistaken, Dustin, you've been burned in the past, which is why you're probably not a fan of partnerships. Like you had a property manager who was like robbing you,
Yes.
taking money from, yeah, you had all these bad partnerships. I've had a couple too, but what I've learned is like it's kind of like filtering for tenants, right? Like once you get the right people in place, it's like the best thing ever. But if you have the wrong people in place, it is the biggest nightmare, the biggest headache. So it's the same thing with partners. Like I screen my partners hard. So if they're not someone who I'd like want to hang out with, if they're not someone who I admire the work that they're doing outside of our partnership, like before I team up with them, if they're not someone who, all these different check boxes, like they have to meet a lot of criteria for me to want to work with them. So like my podcast co-host, Justin, we've been partners for 7+ years now on the podcast because I did my homework and I vetted him beforehand. And now
millions of
it's been
downloads,
awesome.
by the way. Everybody, you should go listen to the Fi Show. Millions of downloads.
Thank you.
Amazing show. Go ahead, keep going.
We just crossed 3 million a couple months ago. Yeah, it's been amazing, man. My business partner Julie in Gold City Ventures, like I saw what she was doing independently outside of myself, and she had a podcast. She was doing all this side hustle stuff, and I just like I feel like I can spot really good talent and work ethic when I see it. She was just such an A+ player. I reached out. We ended up partnering, launching a course and a community and a whole template library. That business has grown to multiple millions, and we're still running that to this day. I've started a disc golf company in the past with a partner. I've done real estate with partners in the past. I've a partner for my Airbnb, Brooke. I've done partners with Flips, my friend James. Like, I feel like once you vet and find the right person for that role, like it can just work out fantastically. Now, where I see a lot of people make mistakes is they try to partner with someone who's exactly like them. And that often doesn't work because then you're just butting heads. Like if you're two rock star content creators and you try to partner on something and content creation is your strength, might not work out. But if you're like one person who's like the content creator and one person who's like the operator behind the scenes, and you have some like cool kind of syndication symbiosis that you can work out, that might work really well. So like try to find someone who fills your like weakness gaps. Like they have strengths where you don't have strengths, and you have strengths where they don't have strengths. That's where the best partnerships work out. Where I see partnerships fail a lot is like two people who are just like too alike and they just continue to butt heads, and then that partnership crumbles and falls apart because yeah, they're not filling each other's skill gaps.
I love it. I think you're right on. And usually it's just like, hey, you're a friend. From the very beginning, you're a friend. We have an idea. Started a skateboard manufacturing business, and it just didn't work out very well. I did all the work, but anyways, okay.
Yeah.
So yes, you definitely anybody, actually anything in general, real estate, business, life. It's all about people. And if you can work together with people and find the right people and not work with and not connect with the wrong people, that's going to be so much better in the long run. If you just focus on people, that's going to be best. Now, in your book, you also talk about accelerating your income. Now, I love the idea of accelerating. That's one of the things we talked about just a little bit ago. I want to make more money to, if I have to afford something, I want to be able to afford something. So talk to me about like, what are your thoughts about accelerating your income wherever you are?
So this actually happened when I read the 4 Hour Work Week back when I was 19. And so before then, I'd always thought about someone who like made a lot of money. They made a lot of money per hour. Like, oh, a doctor makes $200 per hour. A lawyer makes $250 per hour. But the people who make the most money are the people who don't trade their time for money directly. They do not make dollars per hour. They make dollars because they have invested in or they have built something that pays them in perpetuity, like real estate, like digital products is near and dear to my heart. So I immediately, like when I first started learning about side hustles and passive income, I started to spend all of my time and money building or buying things that would then pay me in perpetuity and scale. So my first 3 years in entrepreneurship, I know I shared these numbers with you before we hit go here. My first year in entrepreneurship, made $96,000. And we can tie this into frugality too. I spent 24,000. My second year in entrepreneurship made 192,000. My income doubled because I was working on all these scalable things. It wasn't like I was making $30 per hour and then I doubled my hours because there's only so many hours in the day, right? So like your income cannot be exponential if you're solely trading your time for money. You need to find some of these more leveraged vehicles. So that was year 2, 192K. My expenses were still 24K. Year 3, my income doubled again, 403K. My expenses were 24K. So my delta between my income and my expenses that last year was like 375K. And you guys can probably guess what I did with it was I invested all of that money into real estate, into the stock market. And that was at the end of that year is when I reached that, like I had 500K in the stock market. I had those 11 units. And that was when I had quote unquote reached financial independence. So yeah, that gives you a little insight into like how I was increasing my income, but it was really just focusing on the things that could scale. I think a lot of people will try to scale like a job, and you could scale a day job like if you jump companies or if you get like some huge internal shift, but it is a lot harder. It's a lot harder to go from, oh, this year I'm making, $50 an hour. Next year I'm going to make 100. Next year I'm going to make $200 per hour. It is just very hard to scale your income like that. So you need to look for opportunities that are exponential, like real estate, like passive income with digital products, like some of these other things that you put the work in once, you put the money in once, and it just continues to compound over time.
Now, you talk about many different ways to get financial independence. Do you have a preferred one? Like mine is real estate. I absolutely love real estate, and I have businesses. I invested in businesses. I invest some in the stock market, not a ton. But do you have a preferred one that you really enjoy? One way that if you were to like, hey, go back, tell my younger self, do this because you're going to be your favorite one. You're going to make the most money.
I mean, for me, it's digital products, but I also don't want people to think, oh, you have to sell digital products to reach financial independence. Like, that's why I try to make this book like a menu, because there's some people who they might love that idea and they might run with it. There might be people who want to do real estate. There might be people who want to be like a small business person where they're like buying the local laundromat and the local car wash. There's so many different ways to do it, Dustin. So, like, yes, the one for me is digital products. That's near and dear to my heart. They're just like infinitely scalable, but there's like you can do it in so many different ways, and that's why I'm such a dabbler. I mean, I've tried all the things. I've tried all the different styles of real estate, and I still do real estate to this day. I do like real estate. I've tried probably 30 plus side hustles at this point, but yeah, I mean, that one's my favorite. But I think people should just follow the path of least resistance. Like if you hear Dustin and I talking about stuff on this podcast and you're like, that sounds like it makes a lot of money, but I feel like I'm going to hate it. It might not be the thing for you. Like, don't do something that you hate because you're not going to be able to keep up with it. If you can do something and get lost in it and like you catch yourself and you're like, how did I just spend 4 hours doing X, Y, or Z thing? Because you're so just enamored by it and you're so into it. Like you end up looking at properties for 4 hours and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Then, real estate might be for you. If you hate looking at properties and you hate the idea of owning properties, maybe it's not for you. Same with digital products. Like, I think you just need to find your lane and stick with it and just kind of give it your best shot. But everyone's lane is going to be different.
Totally, 100% agree. Not everybody's into anything specific. It's meaning like, not everybody, sorry, is what I mean. So I love real estate, but I also love businesses, but I love real estate the most. But at the same time, everybody should figure out what's the right path for them. I love it. Now, can you give me a specific time that you had a setback in your financial independence journey? Because I know I have plenty of stories, or one specific that I had where I got financially set back and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I just did that. But do you have anything like that, of any setbacks that you're like, oh man, I just set myself back a little bit. I got to get back to work.
I feel like I always kick myself and I'm like, oh, I should have invested in that or this or that. But I'm pretty happy with how my journey's turned out. I really try to be like an optimist, glass half full type of guy. I mean, my biggest financial mistake based on percentages would be buying my first car. I spent every single dollar that I had made up until that point. I was like 17 years old. I had 12 grand in my name and I spent 12 grand on a car. And so I wiped out 100% of my net worth in one go. But I mean, I was so fortunate to learn about this stuff when I was 19 years old. Like, I hadn't made any of the big mistakes. I didn't have an expensive house. I'd never really upgraded my car since that first one that I spent all my money on. And so, yeah, I was very fortunate to not have got hit with this lifestyle inflation. Now, what I'll say to answer your question more directly, I guess, is I probably dabbled in too many things for too long. I think I got enamored by that quote. It's like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So I thought me, 21-year-old Cody, should have like 20 streams of income. Like, maybe I can be a millionaire 3 times faster if I have like triple the income streams that a millionaire has. But it honestly probably spread my focus too thin. And nowadays I have like a couple core income streams that I focus all my time and energy. It's like digital products, real estate, and then my kind of like online brand, like personal finance educator, where I have like the book and the podcast and my Instagram and all the other social media platforms. But those are kind of the main three now. Whereas before, I was literally doing everything under the sun to try to make money, like physical in-person side hustles. Like, I've done Uber Eats on a bicycle before. I've worked at my uncle's Christmas tree farm. I've buffed boats and cleaned boats. I've done a lot of freelance work, like editing podcasts, editing videos, building websites for people. And it was just like, oh, I can make $200 doing this. Like, let's go for it. But honestly, that stuff was probably a distraction. I probably, if I had cut those all out faster, could have scaled the main businesses to higher heights. So not a huge mistake. Like, I learned a lot from trying so many different side hustles. I mentioned before, I've probably tried 30 plus, but I think I probably let some of them linger on for too long. Whereas I would have been better served by just focusing on the core few that was making me the most money.
I'll add two things to that. So number one, I think you do, and it wasn't time not served well by doing because I did a bunch of things. I didn't know which one was going to stick or which one I was going to enjoy, which one would actually make me the most money or whatever it might be. And so you have to try out a lot of different things in order to figure out which one's the right one. So 100% agree with you. And then the second thing I'll add, now that I am where I am at financially, very, very blessed to have lots of streams of income, and they flow though into my river of income, which comes from my real estate. That's like the streams flow into the river. And the reason why I have so many streams is because I eventually found one, which was a real estate, and said, this is what I'm going after. And once I realized that, and I had a convenience store, had a skateboard manufacturing business, graphic website design. I had like lots of I had so many things. I was buying and selling things on
We're
eBay.
The same. We're the same.
Just so many things. And then found real estate. And then I realized this is it. So I dove 100% in and did everything there. Now that I have my real estate, I look back now, all the different businesses that I own, all that, like real estate to businesses to all these other ways that money comes in. It didn't, like, if I would just go after all 8 different ways, 7, 8, whatever it might be, right now, it would not work because I'm so scattered. Time and your brain power and your capacity, it was only so limited. And the reason why I believe now, like that statement, seven streams of income for millionaires or wealthy people, is because you just build on as you go. Like once you have one that's
Yes.
so solid, then you're like, let me add on another one. Then let me add on. You just keep adding more and more and more because you already have something solid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm so glad you circled back. I totally meant to circle back and mention this. I think it is true. I don't think it's a false quote, like the average millionaire has seven streams of income. But usually that millionaire got to that level because they had one or two streams of income that they hammered for a couple years. They got it really, really well. And then like they're like, okay, let me move on to three and then four and then five. Like now I'm in a position where I can add on additional streams of income. But like when I was just starting, when I was 21 years old, it probably didn't make sense for me to try 20 different side hustles at once.
I I'm with you. So to circle back to on the idea of like one big mistake that I did that I'll throw in for everybody is I just took my eye off the ball. The eye that I was going after was financial independence or quitting my job, basically having enough income from outside of my job to cover my expenses. Well, we started making a good amount of money after, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years in, 6 years, whatever it was. And we were making a good amount of money. And I took my eye off the ball and I started spending money. Like took my family to Hawaii. I started, spending more money than I had. And then 1 month, no, 2 months, I had multiple evictions. I bought a couple properties, so we're rehabbing them up and all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my goodness, we don't have any money coming in. In fact, we're spending on money. It has set me back like 6 months because I just took my eye off the ball. And so, a little bit encouragement for anybody, for you listening, is if you are focused like Cody and I are, don't take your eye off the ball because if and when you do, that sets you back 6 months, and then it's going to be 6 months later before you can get financial independence. I'd much rather have those 6 months back rather than doing spending money like we were. So that's one tiny little bit of I guess cautionary tale to tell. But is there any other problems or like because you know lots and lots of people, you've seen lots of people get through this, but any other things that come up that you should say, hey, watch out for this?
I just want to reiterate, I think the big three are probably where most people get tripped up. And it's so near and dear to my heart because I've seen it with so many friends and people will be like, I don't get how I can't save money. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And it's because, they get out of school, they get their first big job and they're making, call it 60, 80, 100 grand a year. And their expenses before that were like 12 to $1,500 a month. I mean, that's what I was spending in college or less, living like a broke college kid. But all of a sudden they start making that money and their expenses match. So I think that's the biggest mistake that most people make is like they're
Is it
just spending
lifestyle
every
creep? Is that what
single
you're talking about?
yeah, lifestyle inflation, lifestyle creep, whatever terminology you want to use. It's just that people all of a sudden they're like, oh, I can afford a $2,500 per month apartment. I'm gonna get one. I can afford a $750 per month car payment. I'm gonna do that. I have an extra $200 this week left over, and they don't have any investment set up or anything like that. I'm gonna just Uber Eats or go out to eat or go to the bar or whatever. I think another thing that people get wrong is they don't set up systems early enough. So a lot of people will try to depend on willpower alone to invest. They'll be like, "Oh, when I get my next bonus, that's when I'll start investing. That's when I'll, fund my Roth IRA. That's when I'll get that rental property." But I argue that people should like set up these systems when they barely have any money. Like when you're 18 years old, if you have some kind of automation set up where you're getting money siphoned out of your bank account like every single month, even if it's $10 a month, like it is just getting that motion, it is getting that momentum working for you that like later on when you start making real money, it's the numbers are just going to start adding up and piling up and piling up and compound interest is going to do its thing. And if you have never checked out a compound interest calculator, just type in compound interest calculator, start plugging some numbers in there and it will blow your mind. I remember looking at this stuff when I was like in my early 20s. So I was putting like a 40-year time horizon. I'm like, okay, how much money will I have when I'm 65 if I invest $500 per month, assuming a 8 to 10% rate of return? And the numbers are like in the multiple millions, and it was crazy. So I remember that absolutely blew my mind. But yeah, I think people just don't set up these systems far enough in advance, and then they wake up one day, they're in their 40s, they've never saved a dollar for retirement, they don't have any properties, and then they're like, okay, now I want to start. Now I'm going to get serious about it. It's like if you set these systems up back when you were in your 20s or 30s, and it was on autopilot, and you just kept increasing the amount that you were investing over time as your income started to increase, then you'd be in a much better financial position.
I
So
agree.
I'm a huge fan of like systems over willpower because like as humans, we just have bad willpower. Like if there's a bag of chips on your counter, eventually you're gonna eat them. You're gonna come home one day after the gym, you're gonna be like, oh, I'm starving. You're gonna come home late after the
I
bar one night,
deserve
oh, I'm
this.
starving. But if they're not there, you don't even have the option to eat those chips. So do the same thing with your money. Like if you can siphon away that money and get it invested before it even hits your bank account, before you even have the option to spend it on something silly, then yeah, you don't have to rely on willpower at all. You're relying on a system that you built that's going to build you wealth over time.
Do you mind if I double down and give you a suggestion?
Sure.
So I am so excited and can't wait for a little Cody to be running around and a little Lauren to be running around. That's gonna be fantastic. So everything you said, I'm gonna double down by saying and encouraging because you're not there yet, but you will. And I can't. I'm gonna be so excited when that day comes. And
Uncle Dustin.
exactly, there we go.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is for you listening. I'm not saying obviously Cody. I'm sharing with Cody, but what you need to do right now. Obviously, Cody said something profound. You need to systematize it. You need to have it to where it's automatically that it's like you don't have to think about it, which is amazing. Now, when you start having kids, you want to make sure that it's ingrained. It's part of their DNA is to save money, to give, to be charitable, to have responsibilities. And so from the very day my kids were born to now, my oldest is almost 18. Every single penny that they got from birthdays to, whatever, grandparents or whatever, every single penny that they got, we had them divvy it up into different categories. And here's what it breaks down to. So number one, 10%. We give 10%. We're charitable. Like we help other people. So 10%, let's say they got $10, $1. And at the beginning they were not happy about this, but now it's part of their DNA. So $1 would go to giving, go get to church, God, whatever you want to do. That's 10%. Then 50% of the total, remember this is of the total, 50% of the total, $5 would go to savings. Like you do not get to touch it. This is long-term savings that you will be able to utilize for investing. I'll fast forward the story. My daughter, you can barely see her in the picture. She's right there. She's at 16 years old, she bought her first rental property. And all of my kids by 16, they want to have their own first rental property. So 50%, every bit of money for their entire life, they've saved. And now that's ingrained inside of them where I don't even tell them to save anymore. They know that they save. Hey, daddy, we're going to buy, some silver or put in the stock market. Or like they know to invest. But here's one key. So those are two really great things. But here's one more to add to help our kids to be ingrained in reality. 20% of the total goes to mommy to pay for lights, for electricity.
Taxes.
There's responsibilities. It's like you get $10, you get to spend it all. No, from the very beginning, right when they're born, we help them to learn responsibility, giving, saving, and responsibilities to pay for things. So 10% for giving, 50% for savings, and 20% to mommy to pay for bills. And then now that's literally ingrained in my kids' brains. I got 5 kids now, very blessed to have 5 kids. And the amazing thing is they go to Walmart to buy, like they get, Christmas money or birthday money, and they go to Walmart to buy things. And they come back saying, Dad, you taught us too well. We didn't buy a thing. We know it's garbage. And we're like, yes, I succeeded.
Oh, that's awesome. So these guys have an 80% savings rate just coming out of the box.
100%, yeah.
They're literally spending 20% of the money that's coming in, which is funny because we were talking about this before. Like I have always spent about 20% when I first started my journey and even less now that my income has increased. But yeah, my savings rate was like 80% during my entire financial freedom journey. So it sounds like your kids are on the right trajectory. And they're going to beat me. They're going to be retired by like 20.
Hopefully they're never going to have to work a job. That's really what it comes down to. It's like,
that's awesome, man.
We're already going to be buying real estate. In fact, my son, Xander, he's our third. He is 14. No, just turned 15. Hey, Dad, this was a year and a half ago. When his sister bought her first property at 16, he said, hey, Dad, I'm 13. I want to buy my first property by 15. I want to beat her. I'm like, okay, Xander, let's do it. That's
awesome.
And he's got $9,000 saved up. I'm like, well, we could definitely do a lot of good with that. So
make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Oh,
I love it. Now
you're doing something right.
Thanks, man. And like I said, I can't wait to see little Cody's and Lauren's running around. So any other tips, any other suggestions? Because everybody, you got to go grab the book, Retire by 30 by Cody Berman. It's on Amazon. You can go buy it there. I actually bought one and I have my sons now reading it. So they're learning more, which is great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other tips or any other suggestions if somebody's going on the path to retiring?
Man, there's a lot of places I could go right now. We could talk about the income front, the expenses front. I'm trying to think what
Well,
we
let's
didn't
do
hit on.
this. No,
Investing front.
because you travel a ton and you eat out, which
Yeah.
you enjoy doing those things. Like we want to make money so we could do the things we enjoy. How do you balance the travel as well as eating out, or the things that you enjoy doing? How do you balance that with being financially independent?
So we were definitely more cautious before with our spending. Now that our income has increased, we definitely spend a little more freely. But like when we were first doing this, like we were still traveling a lot. I mean, we lived in Australia for 6 months. My wife was studying abroad. I was just living abroad with her and spent 9 grand total.
6 months and 9 grand. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we were like renting out a room in this like teacher's house for like $400 a month. It was kind of crazy, but it was awesome. So yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to get creative to do what you want to do. Like a lot of people, actually, this is a story from the 4 Hour Work Week that really kind of hit home with me when I was 19 when I first read it. And Tim Ferriss is talking to one of his buddies, and his buddy had just like he was grinding for so many years, like barely saw his family, and he was like selling his company for like $50 million or something. I forget the exact amount. But Tim's like, why are you working so hard? Like, what's at the end of the rainbow? Why are you working so hard to build this company? You're selling it for $50 million. And the guy's like, oh, so I can travel the world. He's like, I want to go to Thailand. Tim's like, you could go to Thailand and live like a king for $1,500 a month. Like, you don't have to sell a company for $50 million. And I think a lot of people have this like dream life, and they've never actually taken the time to calculate what that dream life looks like to them and how much that dream life costs. So for us, it's like, oh, we like to travel. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go on an all-inclusive vacation to Hawaii where we're spending $20,000 in a 7-day span. Like, we lived in Australia for 6 months for like 10 grand. Or like we've gone on a lot of trips where we're travel hacking. We're using points to get there. We're using points to stay in a hotel or points to stay in an Airbnb. Like we did that a lot during those early years. Like I didn't pay for a flight for years because we were being a little more intentional than other people. We were still doing the things we wanted to do. We were just like finding a slightly alternative path. Kind of like what I was talking about with house hacking. It's like we were living in a way worse house. We just happened to own the house and rented out the other side of it and made money from it. So it's like I feel like there's so many instances where if you just take a second and think about, okay, what is the goal that I want? What's the outcome I want to achieve? And is there a slightly more optimized way of getting there or doing it? There usually is. And so I just urge people to like look for that slightly different route that the average person isn't doing. Because if you're the average person, then you're probably broke, overweight, divorced. Like that is what the average person is. Don't be the average person. Be a little bit more savvy, be a little bit smarter, and take a slightly different route, and you're going to be in a much better financial and just life situation in general.
Those are, you should go back and listen to everything Cody just said. That was phenomenal. So, Cody, I am so glad to have you on to share Retire by 30. Everybody, you got to go pick up the book. Go to Amazon.com. I'll put a link in the description, but you could look up Retire by 30 or Cody Berman and you'll be able to get the book. But you need to get the book because even if you're not going to invest in real estate, I love passive income. Cody loves passive income. We want to work one time, get paid over and over and over again, as opposed to trading our life or selling, really what it comes down to. We're selling our life away for money. So many better ways to make money. But man, hey, Cody, it's so great hanging out again. Hopefully we'll get a ski trip sometime soon, but it's so good hanging out with you again. Tell Lauren I said hi.
Will do. Yeah, this is awesome, man. You were such a great interviewer, so much energy. I'm always just like, my face hurts from smiling every time we podcast together. So that's a good sign. I hope people enjoy it just as much as we did.
All right, brother. Hey, good chatting with you, man.
You too. Thank you.
And that is it for today. Go ahead and get my free real estate investing course. Text the word rental to 33777. RENTAL to 33777. You can also join my Real Estate Wealth Builders group coaching. Get all my courses. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next show. See ya.